You're not even invited." Those 4 words from my aunt shattered everything I thought I knew about my place in our family. I stood there, the excitement draining from my face, still holding the gift bag I'd carefully prepared for my sister's wedding tomorrow. "What do you mean?" "I have the invitation right here," I said, pulling out the thick cream card with gold lettering from my pocket. Aunt Karen's eyes filled with pity as she placed her hand on mine. "Michael, the wedding was last weekend. They gave you the wrong date on purpose." I felt my chest tighten as I spotted the photo album on her coffee table, pictures of my sister's wedding. Everyone smiling, everyone there, everyone except me. That's when I realized I'd spent years being the family's invisible man. Little did they know I was about to become impossible to ignore. My name is Michael Anderson. I was always the quiet one in our family, thoughtful, introspective, not the type to demand attention. My sister Lisa was the opposite, vibrant, outspoken, and naturally commanding every room she entered. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" became the soundtrack of my childhood, not because I misbehaved, but because I didn't shine in the same way she did. My parents seemed uncomfortable with my reserved nature, as if my quietness was somehow a failure on their part. The divide grew deeper after my high school graduation. While Lisa pursued a prestigious law degree, following our father's footsteps, I chose a creative path in digital marketing. "Just a phase," my father would say at family dinners. "He'll come around to something serious eventually." They never understood that my silence wasn't emptiness. It was my way of processing the world. When I launched my own agency at 27, no one came to the small opening celebration. "Sorry, Michael. Lisa has a big case that weekend," my mother explained over the phone. I pretended it didn't hurt, but that night I cried for the first time since I was a teenager. Aunt Karen was different. "They don't understand you because they don't try to," she told me during one of our coffee meetups. She was the only one who saw that my quiet nature masked a deep sensitivity and growing success. I never mentioned to my family that my computer job was now earning 6 figures, or that I'd bought my first property at 30. Why bother when they'd already decided my worth? Last Thanksgiving, Lisa announced her engagement to James, a fellow attorney. While everyone fussed over wedding plans, I sat silently at the end of the table. When Lisa caught my eye, I gave her a genuine smile. Despite everything, I still loved my sister and wanted her happiness. When the wedding invitation arrived months later, embossed with gold lettering and addressed to me personally, I felt a surge of hope. Maybe this milestone would bridge the gap. Maybe now they'd see me as the man I'd become, not the shadow they'd created. "I'll be there," I promised myself, "and this time, I'll make them see me." The photo album in Aunt Karen's living room felt heavy in my hands. Page after page of smiling faces, my parents, distant cousins, even colleagues I barely knew, all gathered in the garden venue that matched the address on my invitation. But the date in the corner of one photo read May 8th, a full week before the May 15th on my invitation. "I don't understand," I said, my voice barely audible. "You're saying they had the wedding already, but why would they send me?" "To keep you away," Aunt Karen said gently. "I'm so sorry, Michael. I wanted to tell you sooner, but Lisa made everyone promise not to say anything." My stomach twisted as the truth crashed over me. They sent me a fake invitation with the wrong date on purpose? Karen nodded, her eyes full of guilt. "Your mother said it was easier than not inviting you at all. They thought you'd just show up tomorrow, find no wedding, and assume you got the date wrong." The calculated cruelty of it knocked the air from my lungs. This wasn't a simple oversight or even a last-minute exclusion. This was meticulously planned deception, weeks of preparation to ensure I wouldn't be there while maintaining the illusion that I might have been. "I need to talk to them," I said, standing abruptly. "Michael, wait." But I was already heading for the door. 20 minutes later, I pulled into my parents' driveway. Through the front window, I could see them in the living room with Lisa and James, laughing over what appeared to be wedding photos. When I entered, the laughter stopped. 4 pairs of eyes turned to me, first surprised, then alarmed. "Michael," my mother finally said. What are you doing here? I held up the invitation. I went to Aunt Karen's. She told me the wedding already happened. Lisa and my father exchanged glances. I don't understand, I continued, though part of me had already begun to understand all too well. Why would you send me an invitation for the wrong date? James looked uncomfortable. My mother studied her hands, but Lisa straightened her shoulders and met my eyes directly. Because we didn't want you there, she said. You just fade into the background like you always do, standing awkwardly, making people uncomfortable with your quietness. She waved her hand dismissively. I wanted one perfect day without having to worry about you. Lisa, my father warned, but his tone lacked conviction. What? It's true, Lisa continued. We all agreed. Michael's always been the odd one out, always watching rather than participating. It's exhausting. I looked at my parents. You both knew about this? My mother sighed. Michael, sometimes family means making difficult choices. Lisa deserved her special day exactly as she wanted it. And I didn't deserve to be part of it? My voice cracked. My father finally spoke. Son, you have to understand. Take the hint, Michael. Lisa cut him off. We don't want you. We never have. The room fell silent. In that moment, something inside me broke, and something else hardened. I nodded slowly, turned, and walked out without another word. In my car, I didn't cry, I didn't scream. Instead, I felt a strange clarity washing over me. For years, I'd tried to earn my place in this family, but now I understood there was no place for me to earn, and that realization was oddly freeing. The drive home was a blur. Street lights smeared together as I navigated through the city on autopilot. My sister's words echoed in my head. We don't want you. We never have. Those 8 words confirmed what I'd spent a lifetime trying to disprove. I didn't go to work the next day, or the day after. I shut off my phone and sat in my apartment, staring at the wall as if it might offer some explanation for why my own family had gone to such lengths to exclude me. On the 3rd day, I forced myself to shower, to eat. I checked my phone to find concerned messages from colleagues, but nothing from my family. Not even Aunt Karen. The silence felt like a second betrayal. When I finally returned to work, I buried myself in projects, staying late every night. You're on fire lately, my business partner remarked, unaware that work was the only thing keeping me from collapsing. I smiled and took on another client. 2 weeks after the wedding that wasn't, a thick manila envelope arrived from Aunt Karen. Inside was a letter and a stack of financial documents. Michael, her note began, after what happened, I can't stay silent anymore. You deserve to know the truth about your family. What followed changed everything. The documents showed years of financial transactions, money transfers from an LLC called Atlas Holdings to my parents. Roof repairs, medical bills, property taxes, even my father's car payments, all paid by this mysterious company. I frowned, confused. Then I noticed the LLC registration form. The owner's signature at the bottom was one I recognized immediately, my own. But I'd never established an LLC called Atlas Holdings. I'd never authorized these payments. With shaking hands, I called the bank listed on the statements. After verifying my identity, the representative confirmed, yes, Mr. Anderson, Atlas Holdings was created in your name 5 years ago. The paperwork was filed by a Susan Wang. Susan Wang, my mother's longtime friend, a lawyer. I sat back, stunned. Someone had created a company in my name without my knowledge. Someone had been using my identity, my credit, to funnel money to my parents. That night, I drove to Aunt Karen's house, documents in hand. When she opened the door, her expression told me she knew exactly why I was there. Your mother set it up after you started your agency, she explained as we sat in her kitchen. Susan created the LLC in your name, using information from when you still lived at home. They've been siphoning from your business accounts ever since. That's why they kept me at arm's length, I whispered, the pieces finally fitting together. They needed me successful but disconnected, so they could take without giving anything back. Karen nodded sadly. I only discovered it recently. Your father let it slip during an argument about the wedding. He said they couldn't afford to lose your support, but also couldn't stand having you there. The betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined. For years, they hadn't just been excluding me. They'd been using me. The son they didn't want, but whose money they needed. I left Karen's house with a newfound clarity. This wasn't just about a wedding invitation anymore. This was about taking back my life. I didn't confront my family immediately. That's what they would have expected. The quiet, hurt son seeking explanations, begging for inclusion. Instead, I went silent, completely silent. The morning after discovering the fraud, I called Eliza Chen, a ruthless corporate attorney I'd hired for my agency's biggest contracts. I laid out everything. The wedding deception, the fraudulent LLC, the years of financial exploitation. "This is criminal identity theft," she said, her voice sharp and clinical. "We can pursue this through both civil and criminal channels." "I want to do this right," I told her, methodically, without emotion clouding my judgment. Over the next 3 weeks, we built my case. Eliza brought in a forensic accountant who traced every dollar that had been siphoned from my accounts. The total made me physically ill. $342,708 over 5 years. My money, taken without my knowledge or consent, to fund my parents' lifestyle and my sister's law school debt. "They treated you like an ATM," Eliza remarked, while simultaneously pushing you away. I nodded, reviewing the spreadsheets. "What are my options?" Multiple," she said, laying out a folder of documents. "Restraining orders, civil lawsuits for financial recovery, potential criminal charges for identity theft and fraud, and since your parents' house is partially paid for with your stolen funds, we have grounds to claim partial ownership." I took the documents home and spread them across my dining table. Each paper represented a different avenue of justice, but justice wasn't what I wanted. I wanted recognition. I wanted them to understand exactly what they'd done. I created a meticulous timeline, working backward from the wedding deception to the first fraudulent transfer. I made copies of every document, every bank statement. I wrote down every slight, every missed birthday, every dismissive comment I could remember. My plan formed with cold precision. First, the legal actions, restraining orders against all family members except Aunt Karen. Then, financial separation, freezing the fraudulent LLC, cutting off all further support. Finally, property reclamation, asserting my rights to assets purchased with my stolen funds. "They never asked about my success," I told Aunt Karen over coffee one afternoon. "They never wondered how I built my business or what I achieved. They just took." "What will you do?" she asked, concern etched on her face. "I'm going to show them exactly who I am," I replied. The son they dismissed, the brother they excluded, the man whose money they stole. I bought a new suit, expensive and perfectly tailored. I upgraded my watch to a subtle but unmistakable statement piece. I practiced what I would say, how I would stand. No longer the background figure, no longer the family ghost. "They thought I was invisible," I told Eliza as we finalized our approach. "Now I'm going to be the only thing they can see." The legal papers were filed on a Monday. The restraining orders were approved by Wednesday. The bank accounts were frozen by Friday. And by Sunday, I was ready for the final confrontation. I chose my parents' annual summer garden party for the confrontation. The event where local friends, extended family, and my father's business associates gathered to celebrate the start of summer. A public setting where appearances mattered most to them. I arrived precisely at 2 p.m., dressed in my new charcoal suit. Eliza walked beside me, leather portfolio in hand. Sheriff Davis trailed a few steps behind, there to enforce the restraining order if necessary. The party fell silent as we walked through the garden gate. My mother froze mid-sentence, champagne flute trembling in her hand. My father's smile vanished. Lisa, standing near the dessert table, gripped her husband's arm. "Michael," my father finally managed, "what is the meaning of this?" I remained silent, letting Eliza step forward. "Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, I'm Eliza Chen, legal counsel for Michael Anderson. I'm here to serve you with these documents." She handed my father a thick envelope. "As you've been notified, a restraining order has been granted against all members of the Anderson family with respect to my client." Murmurs rippled through the gathering. My mother's face flushed crimson. "This is ridiculous," Lisa hissed, stepping forward. What restraining order? We haven't done anything to you. Sheriff Davis moved to intercept her. Ma'am, I need you to maintain the legally mandated distance of 50 feet from Mr. Anderson. My father tore open the envelope, scanning the papers inside, his face drained of color. Michael, these accusations are fully documented. I finally spoke, my voice steady and clear, louder than anyone had ever heard me speak before. The fraudulent LLC created in my name, the systematic theft of $342,780 from my accounts, the deliberate exclusion from family events, culminating in a wedding invitation with a false date to ensure I wouldn't attend. Gasps and whispers spread through the crowd. My mother's friends exchanged glances. My father's business partners shifted uncomfortably. You can't do this, my mother said, her voice shaking with anger and embarrassment. We're your family. Family doesn't steal from family, I replied. Family doesn't create elaborate deceptions to exclude family. You made your choice years ago about whether I was truly part of this family. I turned to address the stunned guests. For those wondering, yes, the Anderson family's success you've heard so much about has been funded by my marketing agency. The renovations to this house, my father's new car, Lisa's law school, all paid for with money stolen from me through identity theft and fraud. Lisa stepped forward, rage contorting her features, only to be blocked by Sheriff Davis again. You ungrateful little. She began. Please note that any violation of the restraining order will result in immediate arrest. Eliza cut in smoothly. My father frantically flipped through the documents. But the house, it says here you're claiming ownership of 60% of this property, I confirmed, proportional to the amount of my stolen funds used for mortgage payments and renovations. You have 30 days to vacate. My mother collapsed into a chair, sobbing theatrically. A few of her friends moved to comfort her, but most stood frozen, watching the scene unfold. You've always been jealous, Lisa spat from across the garden. Jealous of me, of our family's standing. This is your pathetic revenge. I met her gaze steadily. No, Lisa, this is justice. And unlike your wedding invitation, everything I'm presenting today is real. As we turned to leave, Aunt Karen stepped out from among the guests. She walked over and squeezed my hand. I'm coming with you, she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Together, we walked out through the garden gate, leaving behind the shattered facade of the family that never wanted me, but would never forget me again. 6 months passed. The legal proceedings concluded swiftly once my parents realized the extent of evidence against them. They settled out of court, agreeing to vacate the house and repay what they could of the stolen funds. Lisa and James withdrew their countersuit after their lawyer reviewed the documented evidence. I sold the house, my house as it turned out, and used part of the proceeds to purchase a comfortable downtown loft. The rest I invested in expanding my agency, which had doubled in size and reputation since I'd stopped unconsciously funneling money to my family. The restraining orders remained in place, not because I feared them anymore, but because I no longer needed them in my life. Aunt Karen visited often. You look different, she remarked one evening as we shared dinner on my balcony. Not just the new haircut or clothes, it's something in your eyes. I feel different, I admitted. For the first time, I'm not carrying the weight of their approval. I'm not trying to earn a place at a table where I was never welcome. The transformation wasn't just internal. I spoke up more in meetings. I dated more confidently. I joined a photography club and displayed my work at a local gallery. The quiet observer had become an active participant in his own life. Lisa attempted to contact me twice through mutual acquaintances. First with angry accusations, then with a tearful plea about our parents' financial struggles. I sent the same response both times. Take the hint, I don't want you. My father sent a letter in month 4. Handwritten, 5 pages long, full of explanations and justifications that eventually gave way to genuine remorse. I read it once, then filed it away. Perhaps someday I'd feel ready to respond, but that day hadn't yet arrived. My mother never reached out directly. According to Aunt Karen, she'd told family members I was disturbed and had turned against the family without reason. Her revisionist history didn't hurt me anymore. I recognized it as the desperate narrative of someone who couldn't face her own actions. The business thrived under my more confident leadership. We landed 2 major international clients, and a business magazine featured me in their 40 Under 40 issue. When the interviewer asked about my family, I simply said, "I'm fortunate to have people in my life who support my growth and success." That was true. They just weren't the people I'd been born to. 1 year after the garden party confrontation, I hosted a housewarming gathering at my new loft. Friends, colleagues, clients, and Aunt Karen filled the space with genuine warmth and connection. As I looked around at these people who chose to be in my life, who saw me clearly and valued my presence, I realized I wasn't searching for approval anymore. The invisible man had become fully visible, most importantly to himself. 2 weeks ago, an unfamiliar number appeared on my phone. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Michael? It's James, Lisa's husband." His voice sounded strained. Ex-husband, actually, as of last Tuesday. I remained silent, waiting. "I wouldn't call if it wasn't important," he continued. "There's something you should know. Your parents are selling their story to a documentary filmmaker, claiming you had a psychotic break and fabricated everything, that they're the victims of your delusions." I laughed softly. "Let them. I have the documentation." "That's just it," James said. "Susan Wong destroyed most of the original paperwork for the LLC. She's claiming she never helped create it." My smile widened. "James, I'm an agency owner. I specialize in digital footprints. Every document was backed up on 3 separate secure servers. And I recorded every conversation after I discovered the fraud, including one with my mother, where she explicitly acknowledged what they'd done." Silence on the other end. "Then, I didn't know. They're going to humiliate themselves." "That's their choice," I replied calmly. After hanging up, I contacted Eliza. She confirmed the documentary was in pre-production, centered around my parents' claims of being financially abused by their mentally unstable son. 3 days later, I sent a comprehensive evidence package to the production company, including audio recordings of my mother admitting to the scheme. By evening, the project was canceled. The most surprising twist? I felt nothing. No anger, no vindication, not even satisfaction. I had finally reached true indifference. Their opinions, their schemes, their very existence had become irrelevant to my life. Yesterday, I received a letter from Lisa. Inside was a check for $75,000, my part of what was taken, according to her brief note. She included her new address and phone number with a request to talk. I looked at her information for a long moment, then shredded it along with the check. Some doors need to remain closed. The truth is, I don't need their money anymore. I don't need their apologies. I don't even need their acknowledgement of what they did. What I needed, what I finally have, is the absolute certainty that I deserve better, and the courage to create it for myself. Have you ever been betrayed like this? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and share. A new story drops tomorrow.